I wanted to do a quick little video on selective narrative in regards to Biden's addressing the hate crime that took place in Buffalo. And he made a speech, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, and he's talking about white supremacy um, will not be tolerated, nor will racism be tolerated. And he went on to speak about the horrific ordeal that took place in Buffalo that we all know very well now. But I didn't like his narrative. And he speaks to like 90% of what I agree with, there's no place for it, yada, yada, yada. But I felt it was a slap into the slain family member's face for him to, at the end, interject the statement that no one should have to live in fear that when they go to a grocery store, they'll be struck down by weapons of war. To use that platform to push his gun control is a bunch of bullshit to me. And that selective narrative that they had. So I've been saying, where is that other narrative that we need to hear? So far as the narrative that I spoke to my girl about in regards to now, Quarter has two sides on this same platform dealing with the same thing, in my opinion, and many others. This is even more of a reason for people to become armed, because I believe this may have went on differently if these people were armed citizens exercising their Second Amendment, to be able to assist the retired officer, security guard that engaged him with the firearm, to outnumber him and subdue the threat to society that presented itself in the form of a white supremacist with a motive and agenda that he carried out. And I believe that the narrative has not been addressed that the Second Amendment will help protect us from situations like that. Because if there were more active Second Amendment people out there when that took place, um, even though he was wearing body armor, he would have been outnumbered. And we all know these bad guys are lion-hearted, when no one's shooting back at them. And so I believe that this calls for the legally armed citizen to become legally armed if they're not, to protect themselves. Because as we've seen, the police calls went out in regards to this active shooter, white supremacist. And by the time they arrived, 10 lay dead and 3 others injured. And this goes to the narrative of you are your first line of defense. And if, someone could have engaged him uh, with that retired police officer that was a security officer, um, I believe many lives could have been saved. And someone that was laying dead could have been the white supremacist opposed to the 10 people that came to that violent fate. You know, because we know there's no gun laws that are going to stop the criminals from accessing firearms and using them. The gun laws are only going to govern the law-abiding citizens that would be using them in the format that they were intended, which was self-protection and various others. But this goes to show you that when you're not armed and the bad guy is armed, it's a no-win situation for you. 911 will be there eventually to aid, but the damage will have been done by that time. This is another event of a radical gunman taking out individuals, legal, you know, not legal, excuse me, American citizens. Uh, Similar to the Las Vegas shooting, if people can recall, there were like 6 security officers that was on the same level of the floor of the guy that was shooting outside of the Las Vegas hotel into the concert, shooting people. And the reason why they didn't do anything because they weren't armed. Well before the police got there, there were 6 security officers right outside of the door or the hall of the gunman that was uh, committing that crime. And that's what I'm saying. These bad guys are going to be armed. So, we have to meet force with force. When you're just scattering as victims, they have all the power. We have to take that power, and it's force meet force with force. So I just would like to see the narrative spread that, we need to become, if you're not already, armed and trained to protect themselves. Because as I spoke to my girl, that what happened in Buffalo at that grocery store could have been something that happened at one of the grocery stores that we go to here in our city. And when something like that goes down, you, you know, seconds, seconds equals lives. And it's going to take minutes for the officers to respond. And so I told my girl, say, that in Buffalo could have been here in Washington. It could have been the Winkos, the Walmarts, the Safeways, the Fred Meyers, the Target, the SARS, the Costco, the Walgreens. It could have been any of the stores that we go to. Just as it happened in Buffalo, it could happen here. And she now has a better understanding of the importance of being armed and how that situation may have been de-escalated or diffused or neutralized if you had Second Amendment citizens actively there to protect themselves, their family members, and the surrounding citizens against this white supremacist. So I'm not going to hang on this too long. I said what I had to say. It is what it is. You can do what you want to do, but like I say, if the shit hits the fan, I'd rather to have it than not have it. Prayers go out to, those family members. We had another incident in California in a church. It's not the times that we live in, it's just what it is. This evil is here. And for all my God fearing individuals, we know this evil is here to stay until Jesus returns and restores order. But in the meantime, in between time, we're going to have to protect ourselves. We're going to have to protect ourselves from those, white supremacists, hate mongers, racists, and anybody in between, as well as these politicians that are trying to take away or minimize your ability to protect yourselves when we know these criminals operate without law, and whatever is not accessible to us is readily accessible to them, and they have no qualms with using it. So people need to unite, for something, or we won't fall for, the rest. But hey, good day. God bless you. Have a good one. Till the next time.